Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about where we're going, how the game has evolved, and where I think the future of the game and future updates and future direction lies. I've done one of these before, but honestly the game has changed so much since the last time I did one of these, most notably with the Doctor Strange update, but subsequent updates have continued to alter the game in ways that I probably didn't even imagine at the time, that I feel like it's relevant and topical, and it's important to do another one of these, not only to get a snapshot of what we currently expect and what may come into the future and to see if we were right in hindsight, but also to get that conversation going about where this game is going just as a game. Every game has a shelf life, every game has the kind of its peaks and troughs. So I wanted to give you guys my thoughts and my opinions on whether we're going through a peak or a trough and what we can expect in the future, what I think we can expect, what my ideas are and my projections are, and then obviously open it up to you guys because this is a conversation. So what has happened recently in the game is I think that we're going down a road. My thesis statement, guys, in a nutshell, is that I think we're going down a path where most of the characters in the game should be able to clear most of the game content. So what I mean by that is that most of the game content should be accessible, or is nearing the point where it is accessible by most of the tier 2 characters in the game. Basically almost any character in the game once you tier 2 them. And I'll give you guys a lot of reasons why I think that is, and I'll tell you why I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing, and I'll give you some other examples to think about that kind of hammer home the point. So let's have a look first at PvP. PvP, as you guys know, is not very prominent or dominant in this game. It's just a small part of it, but PvP is still and will remain to be dominated by a few select characters. So what I mean by that is, Doctor Strange, Odin, Dormammu, Thanos, tier 2 Wasp. There's a very small number of characters in the game that dominate the PvP meta and reflect the kind of teams we see in timeline battle and generally have control over what's going on in that sphere. But aside from that, I want to make a comparison about where we were, let's say 8 months ago, with where we are now. So about 8 months ago, just before the Sharon Rogers update, I would say Loki was the kind of premier top tier character. Loki, and also referred to as FLOKI because of the uniform, was the top dog. And Loki was the top dog because of Loki's ability to compete so highly in so many different game modes. I mean, there's something called best in slot in games like World of Warcraft and other kind of collectible gear games, Diablo, etc. I would say that Loki was best in slot for most of the game content at the time. Loki could give you the easiest world boss clear. Loki could compete in like 4 of the 7 Extreme Alliance Battle days. Now I call them Extreme Alliance Battle days, but there was only one type of Alliance Battle at that time. But it was so difficult for so many of the other characters to clear that it might as well have been Extreme at the time. Basically what we had is we just had the normal mode, and the criteria were different for the normal mode in that Loki could compete as a male, as a universal villain, as a female. There was a bunch of different modes that Loki could compete in, and there just weren't enough other characters that could compete at the same level as Loki. So you basically had to get Loki if you wanted to stay relevant in the game modes. Contrast that with what we have now. Now, while Doctor Strange is the best in slot character for 2 rounds of Extreme Alliance Battle, so Doctor Strange is the best for the Blast Mail Day and for the No Restriction Day, he doesn't compete. He cannot compete in any of the other Extreme days because he's not allowed. And they've changed Alliance Battle, so you actually need more characters now. Because there's both a normal mode and an extreme mode, and because you can't repeatedly use the same characters. If I use Doctor Strange in normal mode, I can't use him in Combat Supervillain. I mean, I can't use him anyways, but you get the point. You can't use Carnage twice on round 2, even though he fits into both criteria. By doing that, they've expanded the number of powerful heroes, probably needing to be tier 2, that we need to have. Now, you can call that inflation if you want, but to me that signifies Netmarble's attempts and efforts to diversify our rosters. Instead of having us rely on clearing game content with 1 or 2 overpowered characters, well, they haven't stopped printing and introducing overpowered characters because we have more now than we've ever had. They've also made it so that these overpowered characters cannot just face roll the entire game. Even with Doctor Strange, you're only going to score high on 2 days out of the week. And that's not even true because he does need a lot of pieces around him. She-Hulk, Werewolf, Ancient One. So there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more required that needs a diversified roster, which is good, and which I think, pushes the point home that we can clear most of the game content. We can access most of the game content with just any tier 2 character. I mean, I'm pretty sure any tier 2 character can clear all of the normal rounds of Alliance battle once you've built them up. So you can see there that you don't even need Doctor Strange yet, as long as you have 1 combat character, 1 blast character, 1 speed character, 1 universal character. Hopefully one of those will be female, and one of those will be a supervillain, and there you go. So you only really need 4 or 5 characters to complete normal mode, but then you have to take that extra step if you want to get into the extreme mode, and you have to further build and diversify your roster. Now, the next part of what I want to say may come as a surprise to you guys, or may be a bit controversial. I may have people disagree with me. That's fine, but hear me out on this. So Netmarble buys Contest of Champions. They continue their acquisition of different IPs, which we knew that they were going to do when they went public. And in Contest of Champions case, they've done a lot for the game. They've introduced a lot of good APIs in terms of like things that they can buy. And I have heard that the player base of Contest of Champions was generally pleased with the direction that things were going in at first. However, a recent patch, a recent update has nerfed the best characters in the game: Scarlet Witch, Thor, Spider-Gwen, and there's a couple others, and it's made the player base really upset. And the reason for that was, in Marvel Contest of Champions, you needed those specific characters and no others to clear specific content in the game. Now, that does sound a little bit to me like Marvel Future Fight. However, the part that resonated with me was the fact that for all other game content, which is the vast majority of the game content in Contest of Champions, you can clear it with whatever hero you want, provided they're strong enough, in our case tier 2, and provided that you have enough actual game skill and knowledge of the game and ability to play the game. So I think that the changes that Netmarble is trying to bring to Contest of Champions through the Kabam Studios that they acquired may be indicative of the same thing they're trying to do here in Marvel Future Fight. Keep in mind that those characters in Contest of Champions were overpowered since 2012 or 2013. So to suddenly change them doesn't really make sense unless there's a wider and a larger motivation behind that. And I think the motivation is to say, hey, we're not going to penalize you, we're not going to punish you for not having this one character. The game should be about more than just face rolling with one character and dominating all of the content with 1 or 2 characters. Marvel has so many great ideas, so many great properties, such a long history. It would be a waste and it would be a shame if they just focused on 1 or 2 heroes in their game and made all others basically obsolete. And to be honest, at the point in the game about a year ago when Loki was king, that's how it felt. Every other hero was so inferior to Loki that there was just no point in building them up. I mean, you can build them up if you like them, but you're only going to succeed by building up Loki and a few other key pieces. Now, despite the fact that we have more versions of Loki, I would say, in Odin, Dormammu, Thanos, Doctor Strange, a lot of the other characters still feel strong. They still feel like they're needed in certain areas of the game. And you can also see that in new game modes that they've introduced and that they've really put a lot of love into that also don't really benefit these giant, monstrous characters that much. Take, for example, one of my favorite game modes, Shadowland. You can have Doctor Strange, that's fine. He's only going to clear as many levels as Rocket Raccoon can clear. So the value of Doctor Strange in Shadowlands, while it will be higher than someone like Rocket Raccoon because Doctor Strange can complete any stage, whereas a tier 2 Rocket Raccoon or a tier 1 Coulson can't clear all 25 stages, they're still only going to bring you that 1 stage worth of clear, that 1 stage worth of progression. You're never going to get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 stages, despite the fact that Doctor Strange costs, you know, a lot more than Coulson to build up. The fact that Doctor Strange is at least 5 or 50 times stronger than Coulson. They've minimized the value of those power players, and they've raised the value of every other character in the game. And I think that's excellent. I think that's awesome. That's what we should be striving for. I mean, I don't want the game to be super casual. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say, oh, just roll it with whoever you like, and there's no strategy and there's no idea or planning or involved. But what I am saying is, because there are so many great faces and because there's just so much wealth of awesomeness to dip into in this giant swimming pool, you should be able to at least compete at some level and feel like you're progressing in some way with basically any character in the game. And I think that's where we're heading with Future Fight, and I think it's a bright future. So just to reiterate, guys, while I do think that PvP is dominated by a fraction of the characters in the game, I mean, if you look at the list here, we have 113 characters. I mean, there's a handful, like maybe 30 tops, but probably less than 30, who are always in alliance tournaments, who are always at the top of the timeline battle leaderboard. You can go and take a snapshot at the end of the week and see. It's probably going to be like 15 characters, I would guess, out of 113. So I know that PvP is not necessarily reflective of this, but that's always going to be the case, I think, because PvP is so difficult to balance, and to have a perfectly balanced PvP game in and of itself would be impressive, not to mention all of the PvE content that we have on top of it. So I can live with that. But the thing is that I think most of the people that play this game, and get me wrong, guys, but I really want to know. So please, guys, in the comments, tell me what kind of gamer you are. There's different types of gamers. There's been studies and there's been, papers and articles published about this, where people discuss different types of gamers. There's more than the number I'm listing here. I believe there's 7 or 8. But the ones that I think populate this game, the types of gamers that are gravitated and driven towards games like Marvel Future Fight are the collectors and the explorers. And these are the types of gamers who aren't in it for the personal glory and the triumphantness that comes with PvP. PvP may be fun to them, but they don't get intrinsic rewards out of beating other players after griefing or trolling them. They get value and they get satisfaction out of collecting all of the heroes and seeing them all leveled up. They get satisfaction out of exploring all of the game content with the hero they want to explore with. The people that look for glitches, the people that look for different ways to clear content. Those are the explorers. The people that try to collect every single comic card, despite the fact that they're terrible, not really that useful, or prohibitively expensive. The people that rank up every single hero and max out all of their stats and all of their gear, trying to just see all of the things completed because they want all the ticks and all the gachas. Those are the people that I think play this game and games like Contest of Champions the most. There is a player base that does do it for PvP, but I think they are in the minority. So I think that this model and this strategy of making everyone on a more even playing field is going to be beneficial to the game and beneficial to the player base in the long run. And I think the biggest example of this is with the recent character rebalances. Guys, try to think back. We have never seen this many character rebalances in the game this quickly. I mean, I think in the last 3 or 4 months, we've had more character rebalances. Black Bolt, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Captain America. There's so many. Thor. There's just like all of the Hulks. It's crazy. There's been so many character rebalances recently that it pales in comparison to what we used to get. Before a character would be released, you'd lucky if in a year you got a re-up for them. You got some kind of change for that character. And I understand the game has been only out for less than 2 years, but really, guys, it felt like in that first year we weren't getting any character rebalancing. And that's also has to do with the fact that the game is new and they don't want to change too many things at the get-go, because then people will feel like the sand is shifting too quickly beneath their feet. But still, it is a really good sign that after all this time, they're going back and they're raising up all of these forgotten souls to an acceptable power level. And that's really what I think lets me know that they're trying to make the game accessible, world boss, all that stuff, by pretty much every character in the game. In summary, guys, I think we're going down the right path, and I think this is going to be fruitful for the game, and it's going to, you know, help and uplift the longevity of the game. But as always, guys, I am super curious what you guys have to say. Leave me some comments, guys. Let me know what you think about the game, what you think of my predictions for the game, where you think we're going. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.